Hey everybody, it's Rajesh here.
And Tane here.
Welcome to our podcast, Baskets of Knowledge, Chats with a Difference. In our podcast, we invite guests from around the country and around the world to talk about how they got to where they're at the moment. It's about a journey, it's about an experience, it's about their life. Kia ora koutou, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Baskets of Knowledge. Tane, nice to see you again. We have missed you. What have you put into your basket of knowledge since we last spoke?
Yeah, I think definitely missed the last couple of episodes, but I've been able to go back and listen to them, which is always a good insight, taking it from another perspective. But I think something I've probably put into my basket the last couple of weeks or over the weekend just been has I went back to my marae on Sunday, and I think that was a timely reminder just that there's no perfect time to do some of the things you want to do on your bucket list. You know, I've thought about going back to my marae for quite a while. And when I've come back from uni, I wanted to go, but I never really found the right time. And so, yes, there was an event on and that was cool, but I think, reflecting on it, so there is no perfect time to do those kinds of things. So just going out there and doing it. So I guess that's been my main takeaway from the last couple of weeks.
Oh, beautiful. And I love that because, we always look for perfect times in life to do things. And when you keep looking for the perfect time, whatever it is, whether it's going to the marae, whether it's posting something online, whether it's writing anything, if you wait for the perfect time, it's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. And you'll just be waiting and it'll never happen. So I love that you reflecting on that there. And what have I done? In my basket of knowledge over the last week. I'm reading Gilbert Enocho's book, which is pretty crazy. It's pretty awesome. And there is one chapter that I'm looking at the moment. It's about pressure, and it talks about pressure as a lifestyle, but it talks about how pressure comes in is because of three different things. Pressure comes from expectation, the expectation that you put on yourself, the scrutiny that you get from other people, and yourself as well. And the third one, which I forget, but I know it's pretty powerful. But there's three things that he talks about. But the one that I want to talk about is the expectation, because pressure comes from expectation. When we put that expectation on ourselves and the perceived expectation on others, that pressure just goes out the window, no matter what situation it is in. And he talks about in the context of the All Blacks. I think about myself and I go, when do I feel the most pressure is when I have that expectation, which, going back to your context, is when you have the expectation of doing things perfectly, you don't do it because the pressure comes into play. But anyway, that's my little chat, and I'll remember number three and I'll post about it somewhere along the way. But it's not about us. It's not about us. As we know, today we are very excited, very privileged, and very honored to have someone that I think is a pretty epic human on our podcast today. And I think this person has been waiting for the perfect moment to come on here. And as we know today, there's no such thing as a perfect moment. I think they also had a bit of expectation and pressure, which is why they haven't come on. I'm just speaking for them. But hey, they're here today, which all that matters. It is someone that I have watched quietly from, well, not just quietly, but also physically how they've grown and how they've changed and how they not just grow, but also they glow with the work that they do. So it's our privilege and our honor to actually have an half in-person podcast episode with our guest from the Taranaki. Kia ora and welcome to Pastoral Knowledge, Liahna.
Kia ora.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited. Very excited.
Yeah, beautiful. And we spoke about the pressure and the perfection. Was that something that was stopping you when we first spoke about this maybe 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago?
Yeah, I think, talking about those pressured moments and everything, and I think I kind of hold myself to be around about here. And so 2 years ago, when I was first offered to come onto your guys' wonderful podcast, I don't think I was ready. And my coping mechanism to that was to dodge the emails and come up with excuses that I was really, really busy. And I think that's just a tohu, it's a sign that maybe I just wasn't ready to share my hiding to where I am now. And I think, you're right, I have matured and grown as an individual from those 2 years to now. So I'm actually excited now. But rewind a couple of years ago, I was probably a very nervous little girl hiding behind the laptop, like I said, dodging your guys' emails.
Yeah, and also, there's also a time and place. And sometimes, as you said, at that point in time, maybe it wasn't the right time for you to share your story. And now you move on, you go, actually, I have a story to share, and I'm proud of it, and I'm gonna own it, and it takes time. So like Tana said, there's no perfect time, but there are perfect moments. right? There's no perfect
Yeah.
time, but there are perfect moments, and I think this is a perfect moment. But hey, we know who you are, so listeners who know nothing about you, who is Liahna today on the 9th of October 2025?
Wow, o tina tātou, ko matariki ki runga ko ngā tangata ki te whenua tina rā koutou katoa, ko ruape u te maunga, ko wanganui te awa, ko Aotea te waka, ko te ati aunui a pāparangi te iwi, ko Ngāti Karuatia te apu, ko Paraweka te marae, e noho ana au ki te koanga moa, engari e mahi ana au ki konei, ki ngā motu, ko Liahna Smith tōku ingoa. Hi, so my name is Liahna. I am a 23-year-old who lives in Inglewood and was brought up in Inglewood, and else I'm here in Taranaki. I'm a very whānau orientated person, love, love, love my family. They are my number one in my life. And I went to Inglewood Primary School, beautiful little kura in Inglewood, loved my time there. And then I moved to New Plymouth Hills High School where I did my secondary schooling there. And the purpose for that was for my sporting decisions. I think that New Plymouth Hills High School offered a little more sporting opportunities that I was kind of after. And I don't regret my decision there either. I got to follow my sister who went to New Plymouth Girls High School also. And actually my mum and my sister went to Inglewood Primary School, so we kind of all went like this together, just obviously at different stages in our life. And then, yes, so from high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I think I've always known I wanted to work with kids, to work with tamariki, but I just never knew what age. And so I think that passion stemmed from during primary school. I had a few key teachers that really stood out to me, that I admired, and I really wanted to be like them. I'd find myself in year 8. And so my primary school went from year 1 to year 8. So I found myself in year 8 going back to the year 1 classes, helping out the young ones there, and finding that's where my passion truly lies. And so after high school, it's that big scary decision of, do you go to university, do you not? And I was having lots of kōrero amongst my whānau with those teachers that I spoke on, just to decide, like, is it for me? Am I truly ready to go to university? And then my sister found out she was happy with her new partner, and immediately I was like, I don't want to go anywhere. I want to be an auntie forever, stay at home. You know, I want to be paid for this. I was trying to convince my sister, like, I'll be the nanny. And so I applied for the Bachelor of Teaching at the University of Waikato, and they came back to me and they were like, you're 1 English credit short. And that's nothing. Like, I realize that now, that's nothing. And I could easily could have done summer school, got that done, and headed away to university. But I think mentally I'd clocked out of schooling. And my English teacher at the time at New Plymouth Girls High School was like, come in, we can get you some more credits, let's do this. And I was immediately like, nope, not doing that. I'm going to be an auntie. I'm going to be here, a present auntie. And I think back to it, and I think everything happens for a reason. Maybe my timing wasn't right to go to university in that point in time. Maybe my timing was to be a present auntie. And I can't change what I've chosen to do in the past, but I think it has made me the person I am today, which sounds very cliche. But it's very true. It made me the person I am today, because transitioning from high school to where my full-time employment of Waiora has helped me grow into the individual I am today. But yeah, that's probably, actually, I'm probably talking quite a bit here. Back over to you, Patrice.
No, that's a great segue, and I guess that was your little journey which we'll tap into. But who are you today, right? What are you mentioned Waiora, so just tell our listeners, what do you do with Waiora today?
Cool. So I'm actually currently employed by Puhoro, which is a STEM academy across Aotearoa. STEM with an extra M being Mātauranga Māori. So I'm on a secondment from Waiora. So I'll start from my hiding it as through Waiora to where I am now. So yeah, I was offered a cadetship at the age of 18. I think I just turned 18, finished school, and I was offered a cadetship to come and work with Waiora for 6 months. And again, I was like, I don't think this is for me. I sat down with my mum and dad, and they were like, there is no way you're not taking this awesome opportunity. And so I took it because my parents told me it would be a really great opportunity to take. So they're the reason I took this opportunity. And I don't regret it ever since. So yeah, if we like kind of rewind to the start of the year when I was with Wairora, I'd been with Wairora for 4 years, which is huge for me. I didn't see myself being in an amazing kaupapa like Wairora for 4 years because, it was just that stepping stone to build my confidence, to build my networking skills, all those 21st century skills, um, to then head off to university. But I think I truly did fall in love with the kaupapa of Wairora. So like a little bit about Wairora. Wairora is a non-for-profit Māori organisation here in Taranaki, and we help our secondary school tauhi, age years 11 to year 13, with their career pathways in health and education. So that's been going for 14 plus years. Our Paufaka Haere currently was the one that sat down at a table 14 odd years ago and wanted to see a positive difference with our Māori in these spaces. So yeah, that's the kaupapa that I fell in love with. And I think I fell in love with it because they gave me an opportunity too. I was someone that didn't know what I wanted to do, or like applied for uni, didn't go my way. So then what am I meant to do? And yes, they gave me that opportunity. And I loved the fact that I could also provide opportunities for our tauhi here in Taranaki who may be feeling similar ways. I do quite often share my story with the year 13s that I do meet with because pathways aren't linear, and it's a lot of expectation for our 18-year-olds to head straight to university, get their degree, come back and work. And so I like to just kind of talk a little bit about my story and how I developed through work experience, not necessarily through qualifications. So yeah, I have no qualifications and got into this role at Wairora and absolutely love it. And then it was at the start of this year, there was a partnership with Pūhoro and Wairora for a secondment opportunity. And I thought maybe this is something I could go for. I felt myself getting very comfortable at Wairora, which is very easy to do. You really love your mahi, you love the people around you. And I was like, maybe change is good for me. So yeah, I'm currently on a 6-month secondment with a kaupapa called Pūhoro. We launched in Taranaki in term 3 of this year, and I'm in 5 secondary schools through Pūhoro. So I think, to rewind back to your initial question, who does that make me today? It makes me, I believe, a strong wahine toa that is willing to give back to the tauhi of Taranaki in ways that I think I needed when I was in high school. The support was definitely there, but I'm someone who doesn't ask for help or put my hand up. So it's about encouraging those moments for our tauhi to stand up, ask those questions, find out who you truly are, what your passions are, and everything like that. And if I can be that big sister, that auntie, that friend to those here in Taranaki, then I definitely think I'm doing my job, doing what I love.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you so much for that. And there's so much to talk about there. And the one thread that I'm gonna pick on there is you mentioned something just before that you got comfortable in your role, and it's very easy for us to get comfortable, and I'm guilty of that there, and I'm sure Tane is also guilty of that in certain situations in life. But what I've noticed is in your story that you have shared beautifully is that the thread that I see is growth happens when you're uncomfortable. So if you think
Mm,
about, so when I think about and reflect back to you when you didn't get your one credit for your English, discomfort straight away, like, oh, now what do I do?
yeah,
The growth was, okay, I can't do that anymore. So I'm just going to be a present auntie. But then what happened then is you got challenged by your parents. So again, growth, discomfort again in your growth. And it's a great thread to have. And I think it's important for us all to recognize that when you're comfortable, it's awesome, but it's
mm,
actually better when you are in discomfort because that's when growth happens, which is what I love. And you've mentioned a lot about your mahi, which is amazing, which is beautiful because I've seen you operating. But I'm going to ask you a question about your own journey. So you work for a Māori-led organization, which has got Titiri at the center of it. Has this always been part of your life? Have you always leaned into your Māori dim and your Te Ao Māori world, or have you navigated to those two worlds? And I ask this question because you come from a generation where things have shifted just a little bit compared to say 2 generations ago when it was very different. And how do you
yeah,
navigate that? Because you're navigating your own journey, navigating the elders in your world, and also navigating young Tahina as well.
yeah. No, it was never part of my journey. I wouldn't say never actually. It wasn't as strong as I probably hoped for it to be. And that doesn't fall on anyone other than myself. I grew up real comfortable in Inglewood, so Te Kuangamoe in Inglewood, and I knew where I came from. I knew I came from up to Awa, um, but that's all I kind of really knew. And I'm still on that learning, hiding it at the moment. I'm still um, figuring out the different iwi that I waka to. And I think for me, it's so important now that I am in a kaupapa Māori space. It's so important for me to understand who I am so I can help others understand who they are. And it's like a cup half full type of thing. You know, you can't be filling other people's cup if your cup is empty. And that's kind of how I look at it in that aspect. And I think of my iramatu, my two nieces. I think I want them to understand who they are growing up and how can I take that role on board to be that person that can help them understand themselves. We've got my mum's side, so it's from up the Awa, and there's a core group in there that know a lot about where we come from. And to me, it's about getting back to my marae more often, just like Tani said at the start. And he's right that you don't know when the timing is going to come. You don't know when the timing's right. You just have to step out there and do it, which kind of touches on your kōrero about that uncomfortable feeling. Because it's not comfortable not knowing where you come from, and it's not comfortable asking those questions to your whānau, you know? And so the past 4 or so years working in a kaupapa Māori space has highlighted that I do need to go back home more often. And I have gone to 1 or 2 marae stays at my marae, but that's not enough to me. And I need to not just say it out loud, it's not enough. I need to do something about it. And again, that does just fall on me because there's so many opportunities to get back down to the awa to see and do things and see where we come from. So yeah, a short answer, no, it hasn't always been a part of who I am. It's always been there. And I know my whānau, they've tried real hard to kind of guide me in that direction and help me understand where I am from. But none of us are experts, absolutely not. And so we need to be finding those right people to talk to understand who we are, because it all connects in one way or another. But yeah, so no, it hasn't always been a part of who I am, but I'm so glad that now I'm finding that passion to find who I am, who my mum is, and my dad. Like, I know he is Māori, and does he wakapapa where? Those are the type of questions that I'm pushing back to my whānau, and who can I go and talk to? And I think another important moment for me and my mum was, I think it was 2 years ago, we started our reo journey together. We went to Te Wānanga o Aotearoa. We sat down and we were like, you know what, we just need to give this a go. We need to just sit out there and get in those uncomfortable moments, because it's not comfortable, again, not knowing things and not knowing a language that we have the right to know. You know, everyone has the right to know this beautiful language, but I don't know it, and I feel a bit of guilt and shame not knowing it when I do wakapapa Māori. And I know others may feel similar ways, but it's actually not about that. It's about your journey starts differently to others. And so we did level 1 and 2 together, and then we started level 3 together as well. And it got really hard. It's not an easy thing. It got really hard. And when me and Mum made the decision that the timing's not right anymore, because it was during work and there was a lots of factors we had to put together for that one. And so we did end up leaving our course. So it's like, for me, it's that uncomfortable feeling of we started something, we got through to the point, and then I think we got to the point where it was really hard. And I don't like to see it as giving up. I more so see it as the timing just wasn't right. Because I'm never giving up, because I'm going to pick it back up when the timing's right again. But yeah.
And it's so true, because it's not about just scaffolding, going 1, 2, 3, just because of the sake of it, but for you to stop and go, actually, wait a minute. Let me just pause here. You and your mum stop and going, actually, wait a minute. This life is still happening here. And
Yeah.
just acknowledging the fact that hey, it's okay to pause. And as you said before, you're actually embracing it every single day in what you do. It's not like a stop. It's not like sometimes I always think about education really weirdly, that you go to school, you learn your stuff, and then when you leave school, you forget about all the stuff that you learned. whereas language is a little bit different, and if you're immersed in it, it's not about the qualification, it's not about the piece of paper you're going to be getting, it's about you actually using it in your everyday life to the
Mm.
extent that you can. So and I love also how you spoke about guilt and shame because I think there's a lot of people that will be listening to this podcast that have guilt and shame, not just about Te Māori, but also about just different, different, wherever they're in the
Yeah,
world, and they feel guilt and shame, which stops them from doing things. Because as you said before, and as you said Tanya before, you don't know when the right time is. But if you live in the world of guilt and shame, you're never going to do anything, right? So if you use that as an
yeah,
excuse or a crutch, so I love how you actually said you felt that, but then gee, that wasn't the reason to stop it. It was actually let me just go and use that empowerment. So beautiful. Tanya, I'm gonna bring you in here because you're also now you get to work with. I'm gonna talk about you in a different way because uh, you were also a product of Waiora, and what does it feel like for you now coming full circle?
Yeah, it's definitely been a reflective piece for me, coming back to such an awesome kaupapa. I think having come in or come through, year 12 and year 13, I didn't probably put as much importance on the significance of the support that Waioda gave me during those years, particularly having the opportunity to go up to the hospital and shadow another physio to realise that that wasn't my pathway. And I think now coming back, yeah, it's definitely awesome to see that full circle moment, but also to embrace myself in a kaupapa Māori workplace because I've never had that experience before. And I think if I, reflect on it compared to my previous jobs, there's just a different level of comfort, a different level of understanding without having to, feel shame or guilt for the passions that you have outside of mahi. And I think that's probably been my highlight having been here now is realizing that the importance is on us as individuals, not so much yes the kaupapa is important and yes our title here are important, but if we aren't feeling 100% in ourselves then we aren't doing justice to the title that we're trying to inspire. And that's been again a different or a change in mindset compared to I guess your traditional work where you've got constant needs that you're having to meet and it's ongoing. It's not necessarily about you, it's about the bigger picture. So it's definitely been an awesome change of mindset in that sense.
Yeah, and it's important what you just said right there is because when you're in the moment you don't realize it. So when you're in your 12 or you're 13 you don't realize it. And Liahna, for you when you were when you were pre-cadet and you're like okay cool this is it, you don't realize it. And this is what we all don't realize what we have until we lose it, until we get back into it, which is really really powerful. And Liahna, I'm going to go back to you because I think what's important for us to talk about is we live in a fractured. Well, I don't know how I should. If we think about what you do with your mahi and the organization that Waiora and Puhoro stand for, we're now at an interesting moment in New Zealand history where there's there are lots and lots of people that are pro picking up the language and doing justice to the Te Tiriti. Um, then conversely, there's also a lot of backlash in the other way. How
mm.
do you navigate that, not in terms of your work, but as you as a proud Wahine Toa, where you see these clashes happening, which I'd just love to know how you navigate that in your world space as well.
Yeah, I think for me, it's about seeing, obviously working in a kaupapa Māori spaces, it's about seeing the good that we can bring to the table, the opportunities, the support that we can bring to the world. And I think me personally, I do a little bit of research here. I ask the questions to my whānau because I'm also, if I'm being completely honest here as well, I also truly don't understand what's going on there as well. And so it's up to me as an individual to go and find those answers and seek that clarity that I'm looking for because I don't want to be making decisions or comments or anything on that if I'm not truly understanding what's going on in the world. So for me, it's like a lot of research. And I'm in the generation where TikTok is huge. And so I get a lot of my facts from TikTok. And it's these, for example, there's one wahine who is a Māori lawyer. and she provides this beautiful information, but she puts it in a way that kind of captures our younger generation to understand what's truly going on. And I still consider myself very young, at the ripe age of 23. So I do tend to understand and follow her whakaaro around what's going on. And I think it's about standing up and just being proud of who we are, proud of being Māori. And I find that example for my whānau, for my taiohi, especially my iramatu, they're a huge reason as to why I stay put in these kaupapa Māori spaces, is because I want them to grow up to see that being Māori it's a superpower. We should be proud of our identity. Any ethnicity, we should be proud of who we are no matter what. And I think you're right, we are in a space in Aotearoa at the moment that some may be feeling different ways and everything like that, but if we just stand on strong on who we are, and as Māori, as any ethnicity, like I said, just stand strong on who you are, then I don't see any issues coming around me, because I'm just going to block them out. You know, if I stand strong on who I am and show others why I am proud to be Māori, hopefully that can be set an example for ones to go, actually, it's not a bad thing, because there is such a persona around a lot of ethnicities, but I'll touch on Māori in specific, that we get put into these tick boxes, or put into these boxes, you know, especially from school. It's if you're really good at sports, or if you're good at trades, but like there's so much more to us than what is spoken on. And I think being in these kaupapa Māori spaces has broadened my thinking on that as well, because I was a very, I'd say, privileged Māori growing up in school and everything like that, but I did see a lot of my peers suffer from those negative personas about them. And yeah, I think being in these spaces, I really enjoy providing that support and positivity and just uplifting their mana versus talking down on the worldviews that go on at the moment. Yeah.
And that's so we can say it's so important, because what you just said there was really powerful. We spoke about Maori, but actually it's not about Maori, it's about different ethnicities. You know, we're very lucky we live in a country that is crazy multicultural. And I had this conversation the other day with someone at my mahi, and we keep using the word bicultural quite a lot, but actually that's incorrect, because it's not bicultural. We are a multicultural society.
Yeah.
And I think the minute we embrace that, okay, actually we're multicultural, it then takes away all those stereotypes, you know, whether you're Maori, Pacifica, Niuean, Fijian, whatever, you know, Indian, Asian, Chinese, because I think at the moment we try and fit people into one of those two boxes. You're either in the Pakeha box or the Maori box. That's it, because you're
Yeah.
bicultural, right? That's it. There's no other. The world doesn't live in those spaces there. And I think it's really great that you've mentioned that, hey, it's okay. It's not okay. It's really powerful for you to embrace your ethnicity, whatever that ethnicity is. But it's also okay for you to learn about other ethnicities, and also to look at other worldviews as well. Because, you know, the danger that we have, and all of us have this danger, is we get so ingrained with our ethnic rights, in inverted commas, that we forget the other viewpoint, because the other person's viewpoint is just as valid to listen to, but we don't have to accept it. And I think what's happening right now is we are invalidating someone's viewpoint and not accepting it as their worldview. So we don't educate each other. And you know, it's not about being right or wrong. It's about the education process, as you said before, which is the world that you live and work in. So I love the way you frame that, as it's not just about being Maori, it's about all ethnicities, but for you, it's about being Maori.
Aye.
Yeah, yeah, beautiful, beautiful. Tan, anything to add to that there? Because I ask you because you're also navigating this real interesting transition for you, as you um how do I say this? As you come from, as you lived in Dunedin, which is very, very Pakeha, but also super ethnically diverse, working at the University of Otago, to where you are now.
Yeah, it's definitely been an interesting space to navigate, and I think that's something I reflect on again, particularly in that Dunedin space, just around the different ethnicities that we encountered, particularly with the influx of international students that come through. And I was always willing to learn about different ethnicities, about different cultures, and what importance they hold to different values. And that was always, I think, a strength that I had going through my university journey. But yeah, as you touch on, there's always backlash. There's always people that don't necessarily agree with those values. And even if I reflect on my time in my previous job, different conversations about the treaty bill and stuff like that, and you're very, I guess, particular with the types of people you would talk to about those issues that were confronting you. And I think that's probably the other side of the story, where because you're Māori, it's almost assumed that you should know everything about what's going on, about the issues, and you should have a strong point or a vocal point in terms of where you sit on those issues. And yeah, sometimes it's just actually taking that step back and going, well, I don't have all the facts. I don't, just because I am Māori doesn't mean that I have all the answers to these issues that we face, but also the strengths in that, in our culture, in our biculturalism. Yes, there's strengths, yes, there's weaknesses, but that's the same with any ethnicity. And I think it's just, being able to, yes, be strong in your culture, but I think also with me coming from a blended background with mum being Pākehā, also being proud of that heritage and knowing that side of the family too, because I think probably the stand that I've always had has been to, I guess, reflect more on my Māori side. One, because I've been probably one of the only in my family to reflect on that, but also I think too because it has always been, they always have been misrepresented in statistics, etc. And so, changing that narrative by going, yes, I'm strong in my Māoridom, but it's also, now going, well, actually, I have that Pākehā side to me and I need to represent that from a strength approach too.
Yeah, and I think this is one thing that I've learned of my time is that we as humans really get into trouble when we look into weaknesses and we go into any conversation or any situation where we lean into weakness. And as you said, Tanya, when you lean into strengths, whatever that strength is, it changes the whole way you look at things. So, for example, Liahna, you're leaning into the strength that whānau and are really important to you, and it's really helping you. Some people might go, "Oh, that's a weakness," but you go, "Actually, no, it's my strength, and I'm going to own that." And Tanya, you spoke about the strength of having Pākehā lens as well. And that's a strength where someone might go, oh, you're a bit biased, but actually it's not biased. It's who you are. It's part of your DNA. So it's a really beautiful way of looking at it. Liahna, one thing that you just briefly touched on, like didn't even go into any depth, is your joy for sport. What is your sport of choice?
Oh gosh, I think no, I've got a few actually. So basketball has been a real high for me, as alongside indoor netball and netball. So I think basketball, my love for basketball stemmed from my sister. She was, I would never say this to her, but she's a really good basketballer. And so she went to her school team, Plymouth Girls High School. They won nationals in her first year doing that in Palmerston North. So I think ever since then, I'm like, that's a sport that I want to pursue as well. I want to be just like my sister, a very typical younger sibling thing to say about their older siblings. And then indoor netball, I think, has been it probably would be sitting at probably my favourite. I was able to represent New Zealand, very lucky enough to represent New Zealand at the age of 13 to go to Perth for indoor netball. And then in year 10, I think, maybe year 9 in high school, I was fortunate enough to represent New Zealand again there, and we headed to South Africa for the tournaments. I think that's where indoor netball probably sits at my number one, because it's taken me places that I never would have imagined to go. It would never necessarily be on my bucket list. However, I'm so grateful that I got to go around and see those countries. And then netball is another high for me, and I just love it, live and breathe it. I'll watch it on TV. Real similar to Tani, I know he's really into his sports as well and watching it. We quite often after the weekend, there's been a big sporting event, and then we start talking to each other about the sports and our own opinions. But yeah, I think that's where my sporting passion stem from, is from my sister, to be able to represent Aotearoa and go and see places, but also I love watching it on TV. Sport is huge to me. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that there. And there's a reason why I asked that question there because we're speaking about the love of sports, but I'd love for you to share some of the learnings you've had from sport because yes, you've had these amazing opportunities, but they don't come easy. So what are some of the learnings you've had by your high level sport, but also where you are at the moment with your sport?
Yeah, there has been quite a few learnings actually for me, and I think it's a lot of mental growth. Um, we can't expect to be freshly going into a team and starting straight away and having that glory moment. So I think, yeah, it's mental strength has been a huge growth for me. If I reflect back to um, not year 13, sorry, when I was 13 years old, and having the ability to represent the country I live in, to me that was just like, yeah, woohoo, it's such a cool moment, like it didn't really necessarily mean anything at the age of 13. However, reflecting back now, that's a huge moment. It's a huge moment for my parents were so proud, along my Waidawana were also so proud. um, but to me that was just a cool opportunity to get on a plane and go and play something I love. So I think there's also been a moment recently, maybe like the last 3 or 4 years. I think I recently left high school and then I joined a netball team, a club netball team, and I think there was just some things I just didn't necessarily agree with within the team, and I think it's about upholding my own values, knowing my worth as well. And so I decided to leave that team. I think it was 3 weeks out before semi-finals, which isn't ideal, and it's not how my parents brought me up to be either. They're like, you stick this out. Um, However, when it comes to feeling a certain way and having those, those initial doubts on yourself and those mental health issues, briefly touching on that, um, it is better for you to step away. And I think that's a huge learning curve for me is don't put yourself in a situation that you feel you may not succeed, because I'm not saying that failure is something that I'm scared of, because I was talking to Tans the other day and she's like, failure isn't starting, and she's so right. But it's more so the fact of putting myself in situations where I'm not um, at my full potential. And that's not necessarily physically, but it's also with my healing up or my mental well-being as well. So I think that would be a huge stepping stone for me, is truly sitting and thinking, is this sporting space where I want to be right now? Am I truly in it for the right reasons? Will I truly handle what's going to be put back on me? Um, so yeah, it's a mental game for me. And I think I'm so much better now. Like I've joined a new club and really enjoying what I do there. And I think it just also stems from the ones that you have in front of you and the ones you have alongside you. They can help uplift you and ignite that passion back in you, because I think a lot of us, we have initial self-doubt. It's human nature. We're always going to self-doubt at least something in our lives. And we need to be surrounded by ones that are going to help us realize our potential is still there and uplift each other, which is what I hope to be as a team player as well in my sporting codes, to be that person that can look, you've just thrown the ball away. It doesn't matter. It's a sport game at the end of the day. You just have to keep pushing through. So if I can be that person to help others push through um, their issues and worries and needs, then I feel like I'm succeeding, because that's kind of what I wish I had um, in that scenario that I talked on a few odd years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm gonna distill it down to a couple of things there that you mentioned is sport is a great learning journey, and you learn a lot. And like Tan said, if you're not failing, you're not doing anything right. So you have to fail to go. You have to fail for you to learn, which goes back right to what we said: discomfort. Failing is not comfortable. And when you
Yeah.
know you're going to be in a situation where you are going to fail, it's very easy for us to go, no, I'm not going to do it there. But it's but what I think what you're trying to say there is it wasn't about the failure, it was about the mismatch of values and principles. And I think this is beyond just sports as well. It's also in life as well. When you are working with people or in a situation where your principles don't align, it's okay for you to cut your
Mm.
losses. And I think sometimes we're
Yeah.
afraid we're afraid to do that. There will be, there's the what is it called? There's a psychological term for it where you go, I've done so much and I've done so much that the fall is there. Ah, I'll kind of come to my brain is all over the place at the moment. but I know there's a philosophy that they talk about where you've done so much where you think that you're going to give up if you don't do anymore. But like you said, it's about, hey, my values and principles don't match. It's not about what I've done. It's about me standing strong with who I am, which is pretty cool. And also, it's the beauty of this is because we're recording this podcast in Mental Health Awareness Week, which is beautiful. And you touched
Oh,
on
awesome.
and you touched on how that affects your mental health and well-being. So here's a question for you both. How do you both look after your mental health? Because mental health is a spectrum. We all have it. I think there's a misconception that you have to be sick to have mental health, but that's not that we all have mental health. And then there's obviously sicknesses which are different, which are a whole different. But I'd love to know how you both look after your mental health and well-being. And we'll start with you, Liahna.
Well,
Yeah.
for me, it's touching on what I said at the start as well. It's being surrounded by my whānau. I do think there's times where I'm not in touch with my own mental health, and I think it's so common at the moment. And I find myself sitting and thinking like, how do I navigate this space? And I think the best thing for me to do is I'm a really open person. I'll happily talk. It may take me a little bit to talk, but I happily will open up and talk to others. So I think for me, it's talking to my mum, my dad, my sister, and my partner. Those are probably the four that I really confide in when I am feeling a certain way. They can pick up on when I'm not feeling myself as well, and they know how to wrap around me and support me in those ways. And I think the other thing for me would be my sports as another outlet. Um, and I don't know, I just feel like my brain shuts off what I'm thinking with the so-called outside world, and I really just focus in on what I'm doing in my sporting codes. So definitely would recommend sports or some physical activity, even if you're just going for a walk around the block, just getting out and being one with nature or being one with yourself um, is a way that I kind of help navigate that space. But also not being afraid to ask for help, which is what I said at the start. I'm someone that never puts my hand up um, and whatnot. But lately, if I'm feeling a certain way, I'll go and talk to someone that knows their stuff and can help guide me on the right track. Or they could just be telling me, maybe you just need some more sleep, you need to eat better, all those type of things I don't think of um, at 23 because I think my body is like immune to everything. Like I can eat what I want, do what I want, and never feel it. So I think, yeah, also nutrition plays a huge part in um, the henning out or whether I like it or not, because I'm a huge foodie. I will eat takeaways any day I can, and but that's not necessarily the right thing to do for your mental health. But those are probably the main things: is spending time with my whānau and finding the right people you can open up to, who are the ones that you feel safe with, and then also going and getting that body moving.
Awesome. Billy, thank you for sharing. Before I come to you, Tana, I'm gonna ask you a question about at the start during your first um conversation. You said you don't like asking for help, or you didn't like asking for help, and now you ask for help. Where did the shift come for you that going asking for help is okay?
Yeah, I can't exactly pinpoint a moment that I felt that shift. And I'm going to even say, like, as cliche as it sounds, it did come within my time at Liahna. Um, it's, I think it stemmed from feeling as though I have the right to ask, or like I have the, what's the word? I'm allowed to ask questions and things like that. It's such a safe space created in this study that I have had people kind of uplift me and allow me to have a voice. That's what I'm trying to say here is I have a voice here in this study, and I think that has helped me recognize that if I've got a voice here in a small kaupapa, not necessarily small, but small people wise in the tari, I can have a voice on the outside. So I think asking questions has stemmed from that confidence that I have built in the workforce to stand on my own 2 feet, have used that voice that I have, and not be afraid to challenge people in the most respectful way, challenge people and ask for clarity. How can I put that into my personal life? And now I'm confident enough to ask for help and ask questions. And it does stem from having that safe space around you and having that confidence built up around you also.
Yeah, and why I asked the question is because it's I don't know if you've seen my LinkedIn post, but I put a post yesterday about it's okay to ask for help, and it's easy for us to say that there. But if the environment that you're in doesn't allow you to ask for help, or if when you ask for help you're seen as whatever negative language you want to use, it doesn't
Mm,
actually work. And as you say, the key phrase you've kept using a lot today, which is really powerful, is around the people that are there to support you. So, it's okay to
mm,
ask for help, but you've got to make sure that you're asking for help from the right people in the right context, in the right space
yeah.
where you feel safe. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you. And Tane, how do you look after your mental health? And I thought this is really big for you.
Yeah, I think something that I've reflected on in the last probably year has been how I truly look after my mental health. Having gone through some struggles at the beginning of this year and getting to a point where I'm now on medication, and I think to start with, there was a huge feeling of guilt or shame
Mm,
to be at that point where I had to ask for help and there was no real alternative. But reflecting on it, particularly with it being hereditary, with my dad and my nana both having similar struggles, it makes me realize that it's actually a huge opportunity to pick up on it quite early, to see what happens in that space and how I can look after myself. Um, I think another reflection that I've had has been like I love similar to Boo, I love being around my whānau and that's
mm,
really important to me. But also I think at times probably during my university journey I used people as a way to not reflect on how I was feeling as an individual. And that wasn't fair in some of those instances. So yeah, again, upon that reflection, it's been real important for me to sit with myself, even for a moment each day, just to see how I'm really feeling and just opening up to my mum and dad. And I think
mm,
that also comes from being the oldest in my immediate family. It's always felt like I have to know where I'm going, I have to know what I'm doing, and I have to be strong on myself. Um, yeah, and so reflecting on that has been a real interesting challenge, but again, I think an opportunity for me to really fine tune what it is that I put into looking after my mental health. And again, I think similar to Boo, that sport, being physically
mm,
active, is such a huge importance to me. And yeah, that start of the year, because I was so busy, I kind of let that slip. And I think it's not until you take that step back and actually go, I am missing something, that you realize or you see how that moment has come to that point. Whereas,
mm,
in the moment you just go, oh, it's one day that I'm not going to the gym or I'm not going to a training or run, whatever it is to keep physically active. But actually, long term, there's implications of not being involved in that space. So,
mm,
I think in terms of things that I can control, the biggest thing for me is being around people that support me, but also being physically active is a massive one for me to just look after my own mental well-being. But also, I think part of the challenge and something that I'm still working through has been having some sense of direction. I've always been somebody who has to have a goal or has to have a direction in mind, and that's not to say that it has to be 5 years or 10 years down the track, but it's just having some sense of this is what I'm doing and this is why it feels good in this point in time. I'm not someone who can just sit here going, I don't know what's next. And again, that's a good learning for me to have to go, I need that sense of direction or a sense of accountability for what I'm wanting to do and what I'm wanting to achieve.
mm,
No, beautiful. Some great shares there. And my challenge for you there is for you to allow yourself permission also to be okay with not knowing. Because
mm,
sometimes we prescribe our lives so much that we miss opportunities that because we're living on a prescription pathway, we miss opportunities that actually come, which you don't see because you're living in this, a bit like, Tane, if we think about your growth into this role here, um, there was no prescription for this year. It just happened. And sometimes life throws these things that you don't expect. So my challenge for you is for your well-being as well. It's okay to not know. It's okay because everything changes, but that's just me just being a coach right now. But I'm not being a coach right now. Let's go to
mm.
podcasting. So thank you both. Thank you both for sharing that there because I think it's important for us to think about how mental health well-being looks very different for different people. There's no right or wrong way of doing it. There's just you've got to find what's comfortable for you. But also you've got to acknowledge the fact that not every day is a good day. and that's okay.
Mm,
And I when I was working in schools, people would say to me they were stressed and anxious because they weren't happy, and I was like, you don't have to be happy every day. There's no rule in the world that says you have to be happy every day. It's okay to be sad, and that doesn't mean you're stressed, anxious. It just means you're sad. And I think the awareness of emotions is really important because an emotion doesn't mean something is wrong or something is good. It's just an emotion. Yeah, so that's what I loved about what you both said and how you embrace those emotions there. Liahna, we're going to come back to you because this is all about you. And I'm going to come back to your mahi because you now work in a very different space with the puhoro. And when I say different space, because now it's targeted towards a pretty awesome program. And I use the word awesome because I know the cool things they do. What does that feel like for you in context of, someone who didn't get their one English credit to now someone's in the space of STEM, which is very different.
yeah. Um, I think initially I'm really proud of myself, which is something that I don't necessarily talk on heaps, because I think we're very humble people, right? We don't voice those successes out loud. But I do reflect back and I do think that that was a sign, that that was a moment in my time that was meant to happen. Being one English credit short is nothing. Like, I know that's nothing. And I know that I could have got that done and got my teaching degree and been a teacher right now, but that wasn't the path that was meant for me, in my opinion. I think I was meant to have that one English credit short, so that I did fall into where I am today. And I think, um, like I say, I often talk on my journey to my students because I want them to know that it's not necessarily that A, B, C, or like one, two, three pathway that so many people talk on. And that's actually what I do enjoy about your guys' podcast. I have listened to a few, and you get people in that don't necessarily have that straight line pathway direction. And I think being in that STEM space is a shock to me. I think it's actually a huge shock to me that I have landed in the space I am today. But I think I wouldn't be in this space if it wasn't for the opportunities that were put in front of me. And it's about taking on those opportunities. I think that's probably one thing I want to highlight there, um, is take an opportunity that is put in front of you, because um, you don't know where it's going to lead you. And you don't want to be thinking in 10 years' time, what if I took that opportunity 10 years ago? Where would I be now? You want to take those opportunities because opportunities don't come up very often at all. And if you are fortunate enough to have one put in front of you, you have to take it with two hands, and you have to go in there with the mindset of, I'm going to make this work. And that's how I am feeling currently at the in the Puhoro STEM space. It's a kaupapa that I've just recently learned of at the start of this year. And I've had really amazing kaimahi in there help me um, navigate that space. But STEM is not necessarily where my passion lied. So how did I end up in this role here? And it came from an opportunity that was put in front of me, and I took it, and I've loved my time being there. And that is showing those STEM careers to the tauhi of Taranaki. It has only been one term, so it feels like it's probably been about 5 or so minutes that I've been in the schools. Because of that one term, though, I've built my own confidence within myself. Um, I found my love for STEM that I didn't necessarily know I knew I had. And it's not necessarily saying that I'm amazing at all the STEM subjects. It's little bits by bits. I didn't realize that had STEM in it. I didn't realize that had STEM in it. And that all comes down to my planning with my sessions in the schools, that I'm also learning. And I'm on a learning journey with these students in this pūhoro mahi, um, just like they are. So I think, yeah, the one thing that I would highlight there is take that opportunity, um, because you don't know where you're going to land. And I've landed in a STEM space, which I never would have imagined in 1,000 years that I would land in a STEM space. But I'm so grateful for the opportunity because it's helping me grow as an individual, but also helping, more importantly, the taihui of Taranaki recognise spaces that we are definitely underrepresented in as Māori.
And again, the thread of growth happens in discomfort because STEM STEM is not your comfortable zone, but as you
Yeah,
said before, you're
absolutely.
growing and you're learning, and it's a journey pathway. And what I love about anything with education is you're always learning. When you teach, you learn, and when you learn, you teach. So it's really, really, really beautiful. Tane, over to you for any question that you'd like to ask, Liahna.
I think something I would be curious to ask, knowing more of the space, is touching on your coaching that you do in
Mhm.
Girls High, I think, we've talked about the importance of sport and what that's brought to your life, but I guess, yeah, how have you transitioned that into that coaching space and what drew you to becoming a coach?
Very good question, Tanya. I completely forgot about that side of me, to be honest.
Mm.
So I'm glad that we have those conversations in the Tani. I think for me, I kind of fell into the coaching role, and that's through my best friend's mum. So Vanessa, she is an amazing netball coach. She was my netball coach actually in primary school, um, and her daughter Paris Mason, who's now a silver fern and with the Pulse. So she's my best friend, and so we grew up playing netball together in primary school, and then I was approached by Vanessa during where was I? I think I was in my second year here at Waiora, and she's like, "Can you come and manage with me?" I had no idea what a manager does because I've never seen that role because I just go to the table, I eat on a tournament, then I go back to my room. I don't actually know what goes on behind the scenes. And so I was like, sure, why not? I just thought it's an opportunity, take it. So I took it and I was very humbled in that space because it's so not what I expected it to be. It's not just you cook, you provide games for the kids and you leave. It's so much more than that. And I think the reason I took it is because I wanted to give back to the school that gave me something. And so giving back to New Plymouth Girls High School, but more importantly, giving back to Vanessa. She's like another mum to me, and she'd do anything for me. So with her reaching out, I would feel so much guilt and rudeness by saying no. So I was like, you know what, let's do it. And it has helped me grow as a person. And it is putting myself in those uncomfortable situations. Again, like you said, Patricia, it's putting yourself in that situation to help you grow as an individual. And um, not necessarily at the start of the season, they kind of just looked at me because I think I'm real similar age to them, and I think they look at me and go, "Well, what do you know? What do you know? What can you give us?" It's not that they'd ever voiced that because they're very respectful girls, but I can sense that they're thinking, "What can you actually bring to the table here?" So I think I made it my mission to ensure that I did bring something valuable to them, and that is through doing some research and looking at TikTok reels again of different netball drills and things like that, and giving back to Vanessa, giving back to the school, but also giving back to the students, and showing them that giving back to those who give to us is a privilege in itself and having that ability to do so. And I do thank Waiora for allowing me to um, have that chance to give back to the school, because not every job is what is the word, is really flexible at you leaving at 4 o'clock because you've got to get to a training by 4:30. And yeah, I think it's grown me as an individual. It's allowed me to realize the struggles that some of the students face, or not students, sorry, the players face, and how can I help them in those scenarios, because they all bring their own baggage to a team. Every individual brings their own issues and needs and baggage when we go away, and it's how can I help ease that and help navigate those spaces that I can be that person they can come and talk to on tournaments. I don't necessarily see myself being a coach by myself ever, but hey, you never say never. But yeah, I am quite happy just sitting in the background and doing what I can, um, and learning from others. Yeah.
Yeah, what a great question there, Tony. What a great because what it does, it shows again, we wear so many hats, and sometimes we forget about the hats that are the most important to us. We self-identify with our job or our title, but it's lovely hearing about the coaching side, and but also the fact that you just say yes to opportunities. It's quite funny. It leans back to what I just said before. When you have a prescribed life, you don't see the opportunities, and you have this opportunity that came forward, and what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah.
Self-doubt, real. Self-doubt is real.
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome is real. And as you said before, you do what you need to do to, because there's two ways to look at self-doubt. You can always wallow in pity and self-doubt and imposter syndrome, or you can arm yourself and go, okay, whether it's watching TikTok reels or reading a book or whatever, you then build the confidence slowly but surely. So I love that. That was so beautiful. Liahna, we've been speaking for almost an hour. Are there
Wow.
any parts of your life that we have not touched on that you'd like to share on the podcast?
Um, uh, probably actually one thing, very, very briefly, would be there was a moment in my time that I lost someone that was really, really close to me, and that was my nana. And I think it's important to touch on grief a little bit there, especially that we're in Mental Health Week as well. I don't want to take up too much time. However, grief is something that comes and goes,
Take the
and
time. It's all good. It's all good. Don't
oh,
rush.
thank you. Yeah. Grief is something that a feeling that comes and goes, and you can't control it. And I think it's something that kind of resonates with Mental Health Week as well, because it can cause a lot of mental health issues in itself. And I think for me, losing my nana, my best friend at the time, she kind of it kind of made me realize I need to find a purpose in my life, and I need to do something that would make her proud. Um, and my other whānau that have passed, but specifically my nana being my best friend, how can I make her proud of me as she watches over me from the stars? So I think that kind of leads into that corridor that I speak on about taking those opportunities. She's always in the back of my head when I do take on opportunities or I am thinking in the future. And that is not necessarily just to make her proud, but it's also to be that little pushing, that stepping stone for me to find who I truly am and where my passions lie. Yeah, it's probably the only thing I'd be keen to touch on.
No, thank you. Thank you for bringing that in because it's really interesting you bring that. In my coaching world, I'm working with somebody who wants to start a coaching practice and she wants to become a grief coach and
Oh,
she's very hesitant about that. And what I reflected back, and this is a reflection for both for all of us here, is every single one of us in our lives is going to experience grief. Everyone, whether we like
yeah.
it or not. And it could be the loss of someone that you love. It could be a breakup. It could be a phone breaking. Whatever causes the grief, it is going to happen, right? And it's important that you bring it up, especially, I think this week as well. Grief is part of life. We speak about change, but also grief, we're all going to experience that there. And I love that you
Mm,
bring that in because it's real. It is real. Grief is something that's real, and a lot of times we don't talk about it. We push it aside because
mm,
people think that you're being weak, or when you experience grief, it's people feel obliged to ask you how you are, what they can do for you. But that's not. It's not about that. There, as you shared right now, for you, grief is you losing your best friend and your nana. But what grief has done for you is it's allowed you to look at your world from a different lens of opportunities.
mm,
So I really want to acknowledge you for bringing that up there because it's something that is real.
thank you.
Yeah, it's real. And grief, and there's no in my opinion, there's no um scale on how big or small grief is. Each person's journey with grief
Mm,
is very, very different. And as you said before, it comes and goes. Today you could be you could feel 10 out of 10, and then you wake up tomorrow morning, you feel 1 out of 10 because of grief, and that's
mm,
okay. And so it's really, yeah, beautiful for you bringing that up there. Um, and this is a great segue to our final question. So, our podcast is called Baskets of Knowledge, and every episode we ask our guests to share a piece of knowledge to put into our basket, our kete. So, Liana, you've shared quite a lot today, but is there any one specific piece of knowledge or wero that you'd like to put into our kete, our basket?
oh, this is a tough one. Um, I think, yeah, it's what we've all three of us have actually touched on is that feeling of being uncomfortable. Um, Take that feeling and put it into a passion. And I think that also leads into the taking those opportunities that come in front of us. Because you're so right. That uncomfortable feeling can stop a lot of people from pursuing something that they may be amazing at or a opportunity that they may thrive in. So I think just know that that uncomfortable feeling is temporary. It goes away. It goes away once you've put yourself in those scenarios and those situations. So yeah, take that opportunity, and that feeling of being uncomfortable is normal, and it goes away. So don't stress about it in the moment, like I did myself. There's no need to stress over those little moments because they go away. They absolutely do.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Embrace the uncomfortableness, and take those opportunities. We all have that, and I'm guessing all three of us wouldn't be where we are today if we didn't lean to the uncomfortableness and take an opportunity. Awesome. Tony, any last words from you?
No, it's just awesome to have an in-person podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, except
exactly.
for you, sorry.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. I feel so isolated, but that's cool.
Yeah.
Liahna, thank you so much for jumping on. It's taken us a while to get here, but as you said before, there's a rhyme, there's a reason, and there's a timing for everything, and this is the perfect time for this story to be shared with the world. So I'd like to acknowledge you and thank you for jumping on. For our guests, for our listeners out there, hopefully you have found this podcast not just interesting, but also informative and maybe also relatable to where you are in your world in whatever space that looks like. Till next time, don't forget to keep smiling. Don't forget to put something into your basket of knowledge. And the most important thing, like Liahna said today, is don't forget to take any opportunity that comes forward. Till next time, ka kite. Bye, everybody. Peace.
Thank you for listening to Baskets of Knowledge.
Yeah, we hope that you found something useful to put into your basket of knowledge. And as we said before, remember to put something little into your baskets of knowledge every week. And as always, feel free to like, comment, and share this podcast. Thanks, everybody. Bye.